For some reason, Jesus' mother is the only woman mentioned by name in the Quran. And for some reason, Jesus' mother is the only woman that has a chapter named in her honor. And for some reason, in chapter 3, verse 42, Jesus' mother is said to be the greatest woman that Allah created. And yet Muhammad's parents are not mentioned by name. Muhammad's parents died as mushrikun, polytheists. The hadith and Muslims say that when Muhammad went to the grave of his mother Amina, he asked Allah to forgive her, and Allah said no, and he wept bitterly because Allah would not forgive his mother. And yet, you still want to get us to believe that Jesus is just a man, and he's given these honors that not even your prophet was given, and your prophet was dishonored by his own God, in that his mother died as a pagan, and when Muhammad asked that Allah forgive her, he said no. And you still want to convince us to follow Muhammad and ignore Jesus and think that Jesus is just a man. Yeah, that makes sense.
So your argument is that because Prophet Jesus' mother is named and Prophet
be careful, be careful how you argue.
Named.
No, hold on. Be careful how you argue because it's going to backfire. So I'm warning you. It's not only Jesus' mother. Can you mention any other woman that the Quran mentions by name in your Quran? The Quran, I said, yeah, the Quran mentions by name. That's redundant to say the Quran mentions by name in the Quran. Is there any other woman mentioned by name in the entire Quran?
No.
Say it again.
I don't know.
There isn't.
I don't remember.
There isn't. Okay?
Okay.
When it talks about a woman will say, the wife of Ibrahim, or the daughter of such and such. So, and yet, Mary is the only woman mentioned by name. And not only mentioned by name, in chapter 3, verse 42, she's said to be the greatest woman that Allah created. Chapter 3, verse 42. Why?
Yeah, of all the women in mankind.
Why? You just admitted to, so I'm glad you did. Why?
Because she was her mother made dua for her before she was born that she would use her as a dedicated to the religion.
So you mean the wives of the prophets didn't make dua for their children?
Look, this doesn't. It's Allah's choice who He chooses as
hold on. Why is Mary not only the greatest woman Allah created, the only woman mentioned by name, and why is it that Jesus is born of a virgin? Please don't tell me Adam and Eve. That's going to backfire against you. But go ahead, use that argument. Why is Jesus born of a virgin?
Because this is the way Allah decided of making him born.
Gee, what a coincidence. Of all the persons, Jesus is the one born of a virgin. Of all the persons, Jesus' mother is the only one mentioned by name. Of all the persons, yes, Jesus' mother is the greatest woman. And it's just because Allah decided to do that for just this one person and nobody else. Yeah, that's it. There's nothing special. Yeah. Are you serious?
Okay, well, let me use this argument against you then.
Please do.
Prophet Moses, the only prophet in the Quran mentioned by name that Allah talked to.
That's a lie.
What else?
That's a lie. That's not what the Quran says. You're lying again.
No, I know there's a by name.
No. You just read it. Chapter 3, verse 55. Was Allah talking to Mickey Mouse or Jesus? You just read it. Who was Allah talking to in chapter 3, verse 55? Mickey Mouse?
Okay, you want me to use a different argument then?
No, wait. Stick with that first argument. Wait. Stick with the first argument. Buddy, you just said, can I finish your point? Can I finish your point? You just said Moses is the only one that Allah spoke to directly. No, that's a lie. In chapter 3, verse 55, can I finish? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar! Let me finish the point so people hear what you said, dude. Don't go in panic mode. Because now you backtrack. You said,
I know what you're trying to say.
So let me finish the point for the people who are listening. You said that Moses is the only one that Allah spoke directly to. That's a lie, because in chapter 3, verse 55, it says Allah spoke directly to Jesus. So that example is not going to work. Throw that out the window.
No, you don't know if the angel is bringing this news.
Here again, we have Allah failing to communicate, because Allah, even though He said the Quran is His word, and even though the Quran is supposed to be fully detailed, it forgot to add the detail. It wasn't Allah who said to Jesus, "Oh Isa, I'm going to cause you to die and raise you to myself." It was actually the angel who said that. You see, you keep accusing Allah of being the worst communicator known to mankind. The verse is plain. Allah spoke to Jesus.
We don't know if it was an angel in between, because
yes, we do, because the Quran. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We do, because the Quran is a book that supposedly provides complete details, explains everything. If the Quran wanted me to know that it's Gabriel speaking to Jesus, it would have said, Jibreel came to Isa and said, Ya Isa, Allah says X, Y, and Z. But in 355, it says, Allah said to Jesus. You don't get any plainer than that, because would you deny in 5116 that Allah and Jesus are actually talking to each other when it says, Allah will say to Jesus, Oh Isa, did you tell mankind to take you and your mother as two gods besides Allah? Is Allah speaking to Jesus, or is that the angel again?
This is the Day of Judgment, I believe.
Okay, so is Allah speaking to Jesus, or is it the angel again?
We don't know. This is probably because Day of Judgment, everyone.
All right. Okay, so let's get back to the point. We're tiring people.
Okay, can I say one? Can I say one point?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So when using your earlier argument, so okay, Prophet Yusuf is the only one that sajda was done to another human being on the earth.
Okay, now,
we can use this.
You sure you want to use that argument?
Isn't he special? Isn't he very unique?
You sure you want to use that argument, sajda? Because everyone just heard you use the word sajda. You sure? You want to use that argument?
Prostration was done by his brother.
Okay, so prostration, right? And I know what you're referring to. Surah Al-Yunus, Ayah 4 and Ayah 100. Yes. Chapter 12, verse 4, chapter 12, verse 100. I know what you're referring to. You pause it if you want to go there. You want to use that argument.
I mean, that was just the point, but I know what your argument is. Shit, I already heard your argument before.
Okay.
Even though
so
that's
not at all. But Yunus is not the only one that had sajda being offered to him. Adam had all the angels offering sajda to him, right?
But Prophet Adam too, which debunks your whole shirk argument.
It shows that you have no clue how to refute these contradictions in the Quran. But let's put that aside. Yes, Yunus received sajda. All right. So did Adam.
Yusuf.
Yes, Yusuf. I'm sorry, because the Arabic word Surah Al-Yunus is chapter 10. Surah Al-Yusuf is chapter 12. Sorry, forgive me, my friend. I have a hard time speaking English, let alone Arabic. All right, now let's get back to the point. You're going to compare a person receiving prostration to Jesus, whose mother is said to be the greatest woman that Allah created, the only woman mentioned by name, who was born to her while she was a virgin, no man touched her, who did things that only Allah does in the Quran, such as create birds from clay and breathe life into them, to a man receiving prostration from his family members. So you can single out one unique feature of Joseph, but all these other unique characteristics that are attributed to Jesus alone, that he alone is called the Word of Allah, a spirit from him. His mother was a blessed virgin that conceived him and gave birth to him. His mother is the greatest of all women, the only woman mentioned by name. Jesus creates clay, fashions a bird from clay, breathes into it, and makes it a living bird, the same way Allah did for Adam. Let's ignore all these plethora of characteristics and focus on one aspect, that these people prostrated to Yusuf, and it makes them equivalent to Isa. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Oh, no. I can bring you another if you want.
You can see, you still don't get it. Whatever you bring me, it's not going to compare to Jesus doing what only your God can do. Can you show me someone besides Allah and Jesus creating from clay and breathing life into that clay and making it a living being? That's astonishing. You're giving me some silly, superficial examples, but the examples that matter, that shows that Jesus is more than a man, let's ignore that. So here I'm going to call your bluff. Show me someone other than Allah and Jesus, in the Quran that raises the dead. Show me someone other than Allah and Jesus that creates from clay and breathes into the clay and makes it come to life. Can you show me those examples?